The chandeliers of the plaza glittered above Manhattan's most powerful guests as the annual Remington Innovations dinner reached its peak. Champagne flowed, cameras flashed, and polished laughter filled the marble ballroom. At the center of the celebration stood Cole Remington, billionaire CEO and a man convinced the entire night belonged to him. On his arm was Savannah Lake, his glamorous mistress in a fitted silver gown, the woman he displayed proudly while his pregnant wife remained forgotten. Cole raised his glass with a cruel smile. "Ladies and gentlemen, meet the woman who inspires me now, the future face of Remington Innovations." The room erupted in whispers. Everyone knew Cole was still married. Everyone knew Harper Ellington was 6 months pregnant, but no one expected her to appear. Then the ballroom doors opened. Harper stepped inside with one hand resting protectively over her belly. Her face was pale, her breathing controlled, and every careful step carried the pain of a woman walking directly into the humiliation her husband had prepared for her. The orchestra faltered. Conversation stopped. Phones quietly rose. Cole's smile tightened for only a second before he pulled Savannah closer. "Look who finally decided to come," he said loudly. "You should have stayed home, Harper. No one here needs you." Savannah laughed beside him while the guests watched with pity and fascination. Harper said nothing. She simply turned toward the entrance. A powerful man was walking into the ballroom behind her, followed by federal investigators carrying sealed files. Cole's champagne glass froze halfway to his lips, because Harper had not come to beg for her marriage. She had come to expose the secret that could destroy his company before the night was over. Harper swallowed hard, her voice fragile but steady as she said, "Actually, there's something everyone here needs to hear." Cole rolled his eyes. "Please, Harper, don't embarrass yourself." But Harper didn't flinch. She stepped forward, lifting a sealed leather folder, and then the entire ballroom felt its pulse stop, because inside that folder was the one thing Cole never saw coming, and Harper was seconds away from turning his perfect night into ruin. Harper Ellington had never belonged to the world she married into. Not really. Long before Cole Remington paraded his mistress under the golden chandeliers of the plaza, Harper's life had been stitched together with quieter threads: morning coffee in a tiny sunlit kitchen, used textbooks from her financial planning classes, long evening walks along the Hudson whenever the city felt too sharp around the edges. She wasn't born into privilege, nor did she crave it. She came from a modest Ohio town where people waved at neighbors and remembered birthdays. What she did crave was safety, stability, a family that wouldn't disappear. That was what Cole had promised her 3 years ago. Back then, Cole wasn't the glamorous billionaire he pretended to be. Now, he was charming but chaotic, an unpolished entrepreneur with more ambition than direction. Harper admired his drive, his hunger, the intensity in his eyes when he spoke about building a company that would change everything. She believed in him before anyone else did. She stayed up nights helping him revise proposals, restructure budgets, refine speeches. She wasn't just a supportive wife. She was the architect behind many of his earliest breakthroughs. And Cole loved her for it, until success taught him he didn't have to. The higher he climbed, the smaller Harper seemed to become in his eyes. At first it was subtle: forgotten dinners, canceled dates, unanswered texts. Then it soured into condescension, comments about her simple background, snide remarks about her lack of vision, and finally demands that she quit her job because a CEO's wife shouldn't work in a cubicle. When Harper became pregnant, she thought everything would change. It did, but not how she hoped. Her pregnancy was difficult, marked by fainting spells, migraines, and doctor-ordered rest. Instead of comforting her, Cole grew impatient. He accused her of being dramatic, of milking sympathy, of slowing him down. On her hardest days, he didn't show up. On her darkest days, he didn't call. Then came the worst blow. The day she discovered Savannah's lipstick-stained scarf in the backseat of Cole's Mercedes. Harper didn't confront him. Not because she was weak, but because she was tired, exhausted from years of bending until she felt like air. She moved to the guest room. She stopped expecting apologies. She stopped asking questions. She stopped believing the man she loved still existed. But even in her heartbreak, Harper carried one thing he could never strip from her: resilience. She still attended prenatal appointments alone. She still read financial reports late into the night, comforting herself with the familiar logic of numbers. She still whispered promises to her unborn child, promises that their life would be different, gentler, safer. That fragile determination became her anchor. And yet Harper had no idea that her mother, gone for nearly a decade, had left behind a secret powerful enough to reshape her entire future. A secret hidden in dusty safety deposit boxes and unsigned agreements. A secret that would pull Harper back into the world she thought had forgotten her. A secret that would make her the most dangerous woman in Cole Remington's empire. And on the night of the company dinner, with her heart pounding beneath her silk dress, Harper would finally open the first door to that legacy. What she found inside would not only change her life, it would destroy Cole's. Manhattan had a way of swallowing people whole, especially those who weren't born into its glittering maze of power and steel. For Harper Ellington, the city felt like a living creature, beautiful from afar, ruthless up close, and nowhere was that contrast sharper than inside the world built by her husband, Cole Remington. Remington Tower, Cole's corporate headquarters, pierced the midtown skyline like a silver blade, 38 floors of glass, chrome, and quiet intimidation. Every inch was designed to signal dominance, from the marble lobby imported from Italy to the private elevators that recognized Cole's fingerprint. Harper used to visit often during their early years, bringing him lunch, offering feedback on presentations, admiring the way he commanded a room back then. His office had felt warm to her, filled with scribbled ideas and chaotic energy. Now it felt like a fortress she no longer belonged to. Cole had banned her from dropping by after Savannah began frequenting the building. "It confuses the staff," he claimed, "and I need my space to focus." The truth was much simpler. He didn't want the world to remember he had a wife. Outside of Remington Tower, the rest of Cole's kingdom sprawled across Manhattan. His Park Avenue penthouse, his black Mercedes S-Class, his corner table at the Plaza's Oak Room, his weekend villa in the Hamptons. Everywhere he went, Cole carried his success like armor. Everywhere Harper went, she carried silence. The city became her witness. Central Park benches heard her whispered fears. Her tiny prenatal clinic on Lexington witnessed her trembling hands, and the dim hallway of their penthouse apartment absorbed every argument Cole had shrugged away. Yet, despite her loneliness, Harper found pockets of beauty in Manhattan, moments that reminded her she wasn't completely invisible. The barista at the corner Starbucks who learned her complicated order, the elderly doorman who always asked about her baby, the soft glow of Fifth Avenue at dusk when the city lights blurred into gold and white. Those small comforts became her sanctuary. But the Plaza Hotel, that was a different world entirely. Its red-carpeted entrance, gilded ceilings, and towering floral arrangements with a kingdom of the elite, the place where power wasn't whispered but displayed. Cole adored it. To him, the Plaza wasn't just a venue. It was a stage, a place where he could parade Savannah in sparkling gowns and pretend his life had never included a woman carrying his child. For Harper, walking into the Plaza felt like stepping onto another planet. The perfume, the laughter, the polished shoes on marble, it all spun around her like a cruel reminder of the life she had been pushed out of. Yet, the company dinner wasn't just another event. It was the night every shareholder, investor, and board member gathered under one roof. The night Cole showcased his empire. The night rumors became headlines. And the night Harper would walk into a battlefield disguised as a ballroom. She didn't know yet that the city that once ignored her was about to whisper her name in every elevator and every boardroom. She didn't know yet that the world she thought she lost was already shifting, bending, preparing to place her exactly where she belonged. She didn't know that the Plaza would become the birthplace of her transformation. Because beneath its golden lights, a truth was waiting. A truth powerful enough to shatter Cole's world and rebuild hers. Cole Remington wasn't born a villain. That was the most dangerous thing about him. He learned to become one. In the early days, when Remington Innovations was nothing more than a rented co-working desk and a handful of reckless dreams, Cole was magnetic. People were drawn to him the way they're drawn to fire, enchanted by its glow, blind to the burn. He was brilliant, intense, the kind of man who could talk an investor into trusting him with their last dollar. He had a smile that felt like a secret, and a confidence that bordered on prophecy. But success didn't sculpt him, it revealed him. As the company grew from a hopeful startup to one of the most aggressively expanding tech firms on the East Coast, Cole shed pieces of himself the way a tree sheds bark. Kindness fell away first, then humility, then loyalty. By the time he hit his first major valuation milestone, the man Harper had married had already evaporated, replaced by someone sharper, colder, and addicted to the rush of power. He began to curate himself like a brand-tailored Tom Ford suits, a Mercedes S-Class with custom leather interior, a penthouse that overlooked Park Avenue like a throne overlooking a kingdom. The more the world praised him, the less he saw Harper. Eventually, he stopped seeing her altogether. But if there was one thing Cole craved more than wealth, it was admiration, and Savannah Lake offered that in abundance. Savannah, with her influence of perfect looks and camera-ready charm, fed every insecurity Cole tried to hide. She laughed at his jokes. She worshiped his success. She flattered him in ways Harper never would, never could, because Harper had known him before the spotlight. Savannah only knew the polished version, the myth he crafted. With Savannah, Cole felt untouchable. He brought her into meetings, introduced her as someone essential to the brand, gifted her jewelry, he claimed, was sponsored, and let her linger backstage at shareholder events. His staff learned not to question anything. His assistant learned not to look surprised. His legal team learned to discreetly adjust NDAs. Cole didn't just cheat, he flaunted. And yet beneath the charm and arrogance lay something darker. A fear he'd never admit. The fear of losing everything he'd built. The fear of becoming ordinary again. The fear that the world loved the idea of Cole Remington more than the man himself. That fear made him cruel. It was fear that led him to cut Harper out of the company she once helped him brainstorm. Fear that made him mock her background. Fear that made him tell Savannah, "She'll be gone soon enough. Women like her don't survive in my world." But what Cole feared most was something he didn't know existed. Harper's inheritance, Harper's bloodline, Harper's power. And when a confidential report landed on his desk 1 week before the gala, an anonymous tip hinting at a mysterious acquisition of Remington shares, Cole laughed it off. The only person with motive was Harper, and in his mind, Harper barely had the strength to stand, let alone threaten his empire. He dismissed the warning, he dismissed the risk. He dismissed her, but the night of the gala, as Savannah clung to his arm and cameras flashed across the plaza, a shadow moved through the back of Cole's mind, an unease he couldn't explain. Something was coming, something he didn't see, something powerful enough to break him, and it had been carrying his last name. And when Cole finally realizes it, it will already be too late. The ballroom of the plaza pulsed with soft jazz, crystal clinks and curated elegance, every detail designed to impress shareholders and charm Manhattan's elite. Spotlights glided across the floor like polished predators, illuminating gowns worth more than most people's homes. It was a night built for spectacle, and Cole Remington intended to deliver one. He stood at the center of the marble stage, Savannah Lake on his arm, shimmering like a polished trophy. Her gown, a liquid silver cascade, caught the chandeliers and scattered sharp fragments of light across the room. She leaned into him, whispering something that made him laugh, loud, careless, the kind of laugh meant to draw attention. Cameras pivoted, conversations hushed. Everyone could feel something brewing. Cole raised a hand, soaking in the attention. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice smooth as aged bourbon, "thank you for joining us tonight. This year marks a turning point for Remington Innovations." He paused for dramatic effect. Savannah's smile widened. Harper, from the edge of the room, steadied her breath. Cole continued, "You may have noticed someone new tonight." He pulled Savannah forward as though presenting a new model of luxury car. "Savannah Lake," he announced, "has not only inspired my vision, but will soon take on a more substantial role at Remington Innovations." The crowd buzzed. Phones lifted. A few gasps cracked through the air. Harper felt the room tilt. She gripped the back of a nearby chair, willing her legs not to buckle. Cole wasn't finished. He stepped closer to the microphone, lowering his voice but ensuring every word carried. "As for my wife," he said, letting the word drip with disdain, "Harper has chosen to step back. Her priorities clearly lie elsewhere." His eyes flicked dismissively toward Harper's belly. "And frankly, that's fine. Not everyone is built for the spotlight." A ripple of shock surged through the ballroom. Savannah chimed in with a sugary, venomous laugh. "Some women just aren't cut out for this world." A few guests exchanged uncomfortable glances, but no one intervened. Not one person. Harper's throat tightened. Her heart pounded. The humiliation wasn't just public, it was orchestrated. Cole lifted his glass. "So, tonight, let's toast to new beginnings. To the woman who truly understands what this company needs." He slid his arm around Savannah's waist. The future Mrs. Remington. The room erupted, not in applause, but in stunned murmurs. Harper inhaled sharply. The chandelier lights above her blurred into a halo of white. Every cruel whisper scraped against her skin. Did you know? While she's pregnant, he's not even hiding it. Someone brushed past her, bumping her shoulder. Her knees weakened. Then another voice cut through the noise. Mrs. Ellington, are you okay? It was a server, barely older than 20, eyes filled with more concern than anyone else in the room. Harper forced a nod, swallowing the pressure climbing up her chest. She took a step back, then another, her entire body trembling. Cole looked at her, lips curling. Don't make a scene, Harper. You've done enough already. The cruelty in his tone sliced deeper than any public shame. And yet Harper didn't collapse. She straightened because just then, through the open ballroom doors, a man stepped inside. Tall, controlled, eyes locked on her with purpose. Grayson Wolfe. His presence shifted the air itself. And in that instant, Harper realized the night wasn't going to end the way Cole expected. Harper didn't remember how she made it out of the ballroom. One moment she was drowning beneath the hum of whispered gossip and camera flashes, and the next she was stumbling into a dim hallway lined with portraits of presidents and philanthropists who seemed to stare down at her with cold, disapproving eyes. Her breath hitched, her vision blurred, the edges of her world curled inward like burning paper. She pressed a shaking hand to her belly. It's okay. Just breathe. But her voice cracked on the last word. Tears she had fought for months spilled down her cheeks in hot, humiliating streaks. Cole's words ricocheted through her skull. Not everyone is built for the spotlight. Her priorities lie elsewhere. The future Mrs. Remington. Every syllable ripped through her like a blade. Harper leaned against the wall, sliding down until she sat on the polished floor. The silk of her dress pulled around her like a wilted flower. For a moment she let herself be small, let the weight of everything collapse onto her shoulders. The betrayal, the loneliness, the fear that her child felt every tremor of her heartbreak. Her chest tightened, her breath became shallow. A familiar dizziness tugged at the edges of her consciousness. Not now, not here. She tried to stand, but her legs trembled violently. She reached for the railing along the wall and missed. Her body pitched forward. But before she could hit the floor, someone caught her. Harper. The voice was low, controlled, steadying. Grayson Wolfe knelt beside her, his hands firm yet gentle as he helped her sit upright again. His charcoal suit contrasted sharply with the pale panic draining from her face. You shouldn't be alone right now, he said softly. Harper shook her head, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. I'm fine. I just need a minute. You need more than a minute, Grayson replied. His tone wasn't unkind. It was factual, grounding. He offered his hand. For the first time that night, Harper didn't hesitate. He guided her toward a private anteroom off the main hall, its lights dim and warm. She sat on a velvet settee, pressing a hand to her stomach as another wave of emotion surged. I shouldn't have come, she whispered. I thought maybe Cole wouldn't. Her voice cracked again. Grayson's expression tightened, a controlled storm behind his eyes. Harper. He wanted to break you in front of them. That wasn't an accident. The truth of it hung between them, heavy and cruel. I don't know how to do this alone, Harper admitted. I don't know how to raise a child while fighting a man who doesn't even see me as human anymore. You're not alone, Grayson said, his voice dropping to a steady command. You have more strength than you realize, and more power than he knows. Two-redded, Dured. Harper looked up, confused. What power? Grayson reached into his inner jacket pocket and withdrew a sealed envelope. Aged, heavy, familiar, her mother's handwriting. Harper's heart stopped. I've been holding this for years, Grayson said quietly. Your mother wanted you to have it when you were ready. Harper stared at the envelope as the room seemed to tilt. What's inside? She whispered. Grayson exhaled slowly. And when he spoke, the air shifted, the future bending in a direction Harper never imagined, the truth that will change everything. Harper stared at the envelope as though it were a living thing, something fragile, powerful, and impossibly heavy. Her mother's handwriting looked exactly as she remembered. Elegant loops, steady strokes, a softness that once smelled like warm lavender and weekend pancakes. The sight alone cracked something open inside her. I don't understand, Harper whispered. Why would she leave something for me with you? Grayson's expression softened, not with pity, but with something deeper. Respect, memory, a promise. Your mother trusted very few people, he said quietly. but she trusted me with this. She said one day you'd need it more than anything else she could leave behind. Harper's throat tightened. But why now? Because tonight, Grayson replied. You saw exactly how far Cole is willing to go. Oh, the reminder hit her like a second wave of humiliation. She forced herself to breathe, to steady her trembling fingers as she slid them beneath the envelope seal. The paper cracked open with a soft, heartbreaking sound. Inside was a single letter, a set of legal documents, and a key. She unfolded the letter first. My Harper, if you are reading this, it means the world has shown you its cruelty, and you are stronger than you believe. Harper blinked, her vision blurring. Her mother's voice filled her mind, gentle and firm all at once. I never wanted you to carry the burdens I carried. That is why I hid the truth. But someday you may need it to protect yourself, to protect your child. Harper's breath caught. She skipped down the page, her fingers shaking, until she reached the words that shattered the foundations of everything she thought she knew. You are the majority heir to Ellington Holdings, and through it to Remington Innovations. The room spun. Ellington Holdings, the silent private equity firm that quietly owned pieces of half the major companies on the eastern seaboard, a firm rumored to influence markets without ever appearing in headlines, a firm Harper thought had dissolved years before she was born. And that's not all, Grayson said, sensing the storm forming behind her eyes. He gently retrieved the legal documents inside the envelope and placed them in her hands. These signed transfers made by your mother and sealed by her lawyers grant you direct control of the shares Ellington Holdings acquired during Remington's early private rounds. Harper stared. Unable to form words, Grayson continued. Your mother met Cole long before you did. She invested in his first prototype. She believed he had promise, but she didn't trust his character. So, she made her investment conditional. Her shares would transfer to you when you turned 30. He exhaled softly. That birthday was 6 days ago. Silence settled over the room, thick, unbelievable, bending reality itself. I own part of Remington, Harper whispered. Not part, Grayson corrected gently. Enough to shift power, enough to stop him, enough to rebuild your life. A tear rolled down her cheek this time, not from pain, but from the sudden collision of past and future. My mother knew, Harper murmured. She knew I'd need this. She knew you deserved more than to be broken by a man like Cole, Grayson said. Harper closed the letter, clutching it to her chest. Strength roar. Newly born rose inside her like a tide. What do I do now? She asked. Grayson's eyes met hers, steady and unwavering. You fight back, he said, and you don't do it alone. Then he handed her the key, the final piece, the vault at Ellington Bank. He said, your mother left something else there. Something Cole will never see coming. Harper's breath stopped, because if the letter had changed everything, whatever waited in that vault was about to change even more. The next morning, Manhattan looked different to Harper Ellington. Not softer, not kinder, but clearer. As sunlight spilled across the Tribeca skyline, something inside her had shifted. The cracks from last night's humiliation hadn't disappeared. They had hardened into lines of resolve. She wasn't the same woman who had stood trembling at the edge of the plaza ballroom. She wasn't someone Cole could crush anymore. Not with her mother's letter. Not with the documents that placed real power back into her hands. Harper took a long, steady breath and stood before the full-length mirror in her small guest bedroom. Her reflection stared back, eyes swollen, hair tangled, shoulders slumped. She barely recognized herself. This isn't who you are, she whispered. For the first time in months, she called her old stylist, someone she hadn't spoken to since Cole insisted she spent too much on appearances. Within an hour, Isabella arrived with her kits, fabrics, swatches, and a warm hug. Harper didn't expect. My God, Harper, look at you, Isabella murmured. We're fixing this. All of it. And question. As Isabella worked, soft curls falling, subtle makeup highlighting Harper's strength rather than masking her pain. Harper opened the vault key again, running her fingers along its ridges. She didn't know what waited in that downtown bank vault, but she felt its weight like a promise. When Isabella was done, Harper barely recognized herself. Her face looked stronger, her features sharper, not glamorous, powerful. Now, Isabella said, stepping back with pride, let's get you dressed like a woman who owns half of Manhattan. Together, they chose a deep navy maternity dress that wrapped elegantly around Harper's belly, paired with a long cream coat that made her look taller, bolder, untouchable. Comfortable heels, subtle jewelry, nothing excessive. Harper didn't need sparkle. She was the sparkle. When she finally stepped onto the Manhattan sidewalk, people actually turned to look at her, not with pity, not with curiosity, but with recognition. Something inside her radiated now, something unbreakable. Grayson was waiting outside the Blacktown car he'd sent for her, leaning against the door, arms crossed. When he saw her, his eyes flickered, not with attraction, but with an unguarded respect. "You look like someone who's ready to change her life," he said. "I'm ready to take it back," Harper corrected. The ride to Ellington Bank was silent but charged. Harper watched the city stream past Fifth Avenue. The glittering storefronts, the crisp winter light bouncing off skyscrapers. For the first time, the city did not overwhelm her. It fueled her. Inside the private vault room, the air was cool and heavy with history. The banker handed Harper a box, the same box her mother once protected, like a second heartbeat. Her fingers hesitated. Grayson stepped closer. "Whatever's in there, it was meant for you." Harper lifted the lid. Inside lay documents, sealed envelopes, a flash drive, and a leather-bound ledger. She opened it. Page after page documented her mother's investments, strategic plays, private acquisitions, and at the end, a final handwritten line. "This is your shield, Harper. Use it when the world tries to take your voice." A tremor ran through Harper's chest, not fear, but awakening. She snapped the ledger shut. "I know what I have to do now," she said. Grayson nodded. "Good, because Cole just made a move. You need to see." Harper frozen. "What move?" Grayson pulled out his phone, his jaw tight. "He's initiated something at Remington Tower, and if we don't act fast," his eyes locked onto hers, "he may destroy the company before you can take it from him." Harper felt her pulse spike as Grayson's words settled into the cold air of the vault room. Cole wasn't just retaliating emotionally, he was retaliating strategically. And a man like Cole, fueled by humiliation and desperation, was capable of setting fire to everything he touched if it meant preserving his ego. "What did he do?" Harper asked, steadying herself against the table. Grayson handed her his phone. "He called an emergency innovation restructuring meeting this morning. According to my contacts inside Remington Tower, he's planning to liquidate several major assets fast." Harper frowned. "Why would he do that? It would destabilize the company to go." "Righted. That's the point," Grayson said. "If he senses a takeover threat, his first instinct is to scorch the earth so no one else, especially you, can gain control." A cold shiver traveled down Harper's spine. Cole wasn't just cruel. He was unpredictable, and cornered animals were the most dangerous. "Is this even legal?" she whispered. "No," Grayson replied. "But he's trying to mask it as a strategic pivot, and if it goes through, stocks will plunge, investors will panic. By the time we intervene, the damage might be irreversible." Harper's breath hitched. She thought of the employees she used to greet in the lobby, the engineers who worked weekends, the analysts who believed in Cole's vision long before the world cared. They didn't deserve to lose everything because her husband couldn't stand the idea of no longer being king. "Grayson, I can't let him ruin the company," she said, voice shaking. "Too many people depend on it," he nodded. "Which is why we need to stop him today." They headed to the car, waiting outside the bank. Manhattan felt sharper now, the skyscrapers towering like judges deciding her fate. Harper's hand instinctively rested on her belly as the car sliced through traffic toward Midtown. When they arrived at Remington Tower, the tension was palpable. Employees moved in, hurried whispers. Assistants typed frantically. A group of executives paced near the elevators, their faces pale. Harper felt dozens of eyes lift toward her. Surprise, fear, hope. "Mrs. Ellington?" One of the senior analysts stepped forward hesitantly. "Are you here with Mr. Remington?" "No," Harper said, voice clear as glass. "I'm here because he's about to make a catastrophic decision." They exchanged looks, relieved looks. Grayson pressed the elevator button. "He's on the 38th floor, the boardroom." The elevator ride felt endless. Harper's heartbeat echoed in her ears. When the doors finally opened, they stepped into chaos. Inside the boardroom, Cole stood at the head of the table, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, eyes wild with adrenaline. Savannah sat beside him, legs crossed, pretending to read a financial report upside down. Cole slammed his hand on the table, Liquidate Division 3 entirely. I don't care about the fallout. I want cash flow now. Gasps rose from the executives. One woman protested. Sir, that division employs. Did I ask for a head count? Cole snapped. Harper stepped inside. Actually, you did. The room froze. Cole's jaw tightened. Harper, you shouldn't be here. I should, she replied, stepping closer, because you're about to destroy the company. Cole laughed a sharp, humorous sound. Destroy? No. Harper, I'm protecting it by gutting it from the inside. Cole's eyes flashed. You wouldn't understand strategy. Harper lifted her mother's ledger and the legal documents. I understand more than you think. Cole's face drained of color. You see, Harper continued calmly, I know exactly what you're trying to do, and I know why. She placed the documents on the table, and now everyone else will too. Savannah leaned forward, eyes narrowing. What are you implying? Harper looked directly at Cole. That your husband's biggest secret isn't his affair. It's what he's been hiding from this board. Oh, do 9, executives whispered. Cole stiffened. What are you talking about? He demanded. Harper exhaled slowly. The financial fraud you buried 5 years ago. For a long moment, the boardroom hovered in stunned silence, as if the oxygen had been siphoned out of the air. Harper stood with her documents clutched tightly in trembling hands, her heart pounding like a trapped bird inside her chest. She hadn't meant to blurt it out, the accusation of fraud, but the pressure of Cole's deception, his cruelty, and his recklessness had pushed her past a point of no return. Now 30 pairs of eyes stared at her, accusing, judging, waiting to see her fall apart. Cole stepped forward slowly, a predator savoring his next move. Fraud, he repeated, letting the word drip with disbelief. Harper, you're having another one of your episodes. You really should sit down before you embarrass yourself further. The condescension hit her like a slap. Harper felt her breath catch, a tremor running through her fingers. The pressure in the room became unbearable. Her legs wobbled. Her vision rippled at the edges like water disturbed by a stone. I'm not lying, she whispered. But the words barely escaped her throat. Savannah smirked. Sweetheart, you're pregnant, stressed, and clearly overwhelmed. Maybe take a nap before making wild accusations. A few executives exchanged uncomfortable glances, not because they believed Cole, but because they weren't sure what to believe anymore. Harper felt the ground tilt beneath her as humiliation surged through her veins. Her chest tightened, her heartbeat quickened painfully. Her breathing became shallow, uneven. Not now, please. Not now. Grayson stepped toward her, voice steady and low. Harper, look at me. Breathe. Too close, but the room was already collapsing around her. The fluorescent lights above buzzed too loudly. The floor seemed to sway. Whispered conversations floated toward her like distorted echoes. She looks unstable. Is she okay? This is not the place for this. Harper pressed a hand over her belly, desperation rising. Her child's safety came first, but she couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. She felt trapped inside a world that refused to believe her. A world that only saw her as Cole's fragile wife, not as a woman standing on the edge of reclaiming her life. Cole seized the moment. He turned to the board. Ladies and gentlemen, you see what I mean? Harper is unwell. This is exactly why she was removed from all decision-making years ago. Removed like she was an inconvenience, a liability. Harper felt the last of her composure flicker. Grayson's voice cut through the static in her ears. Harper, we can step outside. But when she tried to move, her knees buckled. Grayson caught her before she fell, guiding her into a chair as gasps rippled across the room. Cole crossed his arms, annoyed rather than concerned. See, this is what I've been dealing with. Harper's eyes stung. She could hear her own heartbeat in her ears, loud and frantic. Her breathing grew harsher, like she was pulling air through a straw. Grayson knelt in front of her. Harper, look at me. You're okay. You're safe. But she wasn't safe. Not here. Not with cold, twisting reality to destroy her credibility. A tear slipped down her cheek. I can't, she whispered. I can't fight him like this. Grayson's jaw tightened. You won't have to fight him alone. Then he turned slowly toward Cole, eyes cold as winter steel. Because now that you've pushed her this far, Cole. He rose to his full height, voice vibrating with restrained fury. I'm done holding back. The boardroom had never been quieter. Even the distant hum of Manhattan traffic seemed to fade as Grayson rose to his full height, the fury in his voice echoing against the glass walls. Cole's smug expression faltered, not fully breaking, but thinning at the edges. He hadn't expected pushback, especially not from Grayson Wolfe. Grayson adjusted his cufflinks. Calm, but lethal. If you believe Harper is unstable, Cole, you won't mind if we bring in an independent auditor, for her sake, of course, to clear her name. Cole's jaw tightened. We don't need an auditor. Harper steadied her breaths. Her heartbeat still erratic, but no longer free-falling. She watched Cole closely. The way his eyes flickered, the slight twitch in his jaw, the defensive shift in his shoulders, signs. She knew all too well, signs he was hiding something. Actually, Grayson continued, turning to the board, I've already alerted a compliance team. They're on standby. If Cole has nothing to hide, he should welcome oversight. A murmur rippled across the room. Executives who had once bowed to Cole's authority were now exchanging wary glances. Some even nodded subtly. Doubt, once unthinkable, had entered the room like a cold draft. Savannah's jaw dropped. You had no right. Grayson didn't even look her way. This is a corporate matter. You're not. The humiliation sent a flush up Savannah's throat. Cole slammed his palm against the table. You're overstepping, Wolfe. This is my company. Grayson's gaze hardened. Incorrect. This is a publicly held firm with shareholder obligations. And as of this morning, he paused, looking at Harper. It appears there is a shareholder with far more authority than you. Gasps, whispers, a few heads turned toward Harper, now sitting straighter, gaining her breath and her ground. Cole's face drained. What are you talking about? Harper lifted the leather ledger, her grip steadier now. My mother invested in Remington Innovations long before you made your first million. She protected those shares. And now they're mine. Cole's voice broke into a harsh laugh. Lies. If you had power here, I'd know. You don't know everything, Harper said quietly, especially not about the people you underestimate. Before Cole could retort, the boardroom doors opened. A man in a navy suit stepped inside, flanked by two associates. Good morning. I'm Daniel Hart from Financial Compliance. We received a request regarding irregularities in Remington Innovations expense reports. Cole froze. His pupils contracted. Hart continued. We've identified discrepancies dating back 5 years, some involving overseas transfers, some involving personal expenditures masked as R&D costs. His eyes flicked to Cole. We'll need full access to your files. Savannah shifted in her seat, suddenly pale. Harper felt a strange twist in her stomach. Not joy, not victory, something deeper, something like truth finally exhaling after years trapped under a boulder. Cole sputtered. You can't just barge in. You actually consented the moment you accepted external funding, Hart replied. Your books are subject to review at any time. The board members watched Cole unravel his confidence, leaking out of him like air from a punctured tire. Grayson leaned in. This is only the beginning. Harper inhaled deeply. The room no longer felt suffocating, but before she could speak, Daniel Hart added calmly. There has also been a flagged transaction under a private account, one tied to Savannah Lake. Every head turned. Savannah's eyes widened. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered. Harper's breath chilled because the next words out of Hart's mouth would shift the power even further and reveal a betrayal even Cole hadn't anticipated. The account shows transfers from someone other than Mr. Remington. The temperature in the boardroom seemed to drop 10 degrees as Daniel Hart's words echoed through the space. The account shows transfers from someone other than Mr. Remington. Okay. Savannah went rigid, mascara-coated lashes fluttering like a cornered animal. Cole's head snapped toward her, confusion morphing into suspicion. What the hell is he talking about? Savannah, Cole demanded. She didn't answer. Hart stepped forward, tapping his tablet. The payments began 18 months ago. Regular deposits, significant ones, all funneled into Miss Lake's personal account, labeled as consulting fees. Savannah's pulse hammering at her throat was visible even from across the room. Cole's face twisted in disgust. Consulting? Savannah? What did you do? Savannah's lips parted, but no sound escaped. Every executive watched her unravel like a ribbon pulled too tight. She glanced at Harper, desperate, pleading as if the woman she humiliated just nights ago might suddenly rescue her. Harper simply held her gaze, calm and unreadable. Daniel Hart continued. Upon deeper examination, we traced the origin of the funds to an offshore entity, one linked to a private equity group known as Lysander Capital. The room erupted into whispers. Harper felt the name like a shockwave. Lysander Capital wasn't just any firm. It was notorious. A shadow fund known for hostile takeovers, blackmail-level leverage, and corporate sabotage disguised as market strategy. Cole's eyes widened. Lyser? Why would they? Grayson cut in sharply. Because Lysander has been circling Remington Innovations for years. You were so busy admiring yourself in the mirror, Cole, that you didn't notice someone far more dangerous pulling strings behind you. Savannah squeezed her hands together, knuckles whitening. I didn't have a choice. Cole barked a bitter laugh. You always have a choice. You chose them over me. Savannah snapped, voice cracking. I chose to survive. You think you're the only one who likes power? Lysander promised me a position security once they took over your company. I just had to feed them information. That's all. The board gasped. Harper inhaled slowly, a cold realization settling in. And you pretended to love him, she said softly while helping Lysander destabilize the company from the inside. Savannah's eyes filled with tears, not regret, but fear. They told me Remington Innovations was already unstable. They said it was inevitable. I just accelerated things. Cole staggered back, fury warping his features. All this time, I thought you were loyal to me. Savannah turned away. I was loyal to the winning side. You just weren't it anymore. Silence slammed over the room. Daniel Hart closed his tablet. Will require immediate access to Miss Lake's communications and devices. Savannah shook her head violently. No, you don't understand. You can't. Lysander watches everything. If they know I talked, they'll what? Grayson asked coldly. Cut off your funding. Replace you. Savannah, you aren't their partner. You're a pawn. Savannah flinched as if struck. Cole, now pale with humiliation and rage, spit out. You destroyed me. Savannah let out a trembling breath. No, Cole. You destroyed yourself. I just made sure I survived it. But Hart wasn't done. There is one more detail, he said, glancing briefly at Harper. The contact at Lysander Capital who approved every payment to Miss Lake is someone whose name you all know. Everyone stiffened, including Harper. Hart turned his tablet for the room to see. A familiar signature glowed on the screen. Grayson's expression sharpened, unreadable. Harper's heart stopped, because the signature didn't belong to Cole or Savannah. It belonged to someone from Harper's past, someone who should have been dead. And that name changed everything. The boardroom felt suspended in time as every eye locked onto the glowing name on Daniel Hart's tablet. Ella Lenina Ellington. Harper's breath hitched her mother's name, a name she hadn't heard spoken aloud in years. A name tied to memories soft as childhood, and secrets sharp enough to cut. That's impossible, Harper whispered, her voice cracking. My mother died 8 years ago. Daniel Hart adjusted his glasses. The authorization for these payments was signed digitally, through an encrypted channel tied to an active Lysander Capital executive account. The signature, the credentials, it all points back to Eleanor Ellington. Harper felt her vision blur. Her pulse thudded unevenly. Her mother linked to Lysander, funding Savannah, sabotaging Remington Innovations. It didn't make sense. It couldn't make sense. Grayson stepped forward, his tone firm. There has to be a mistake. Eleanor would never align with a group like Lysander. Hart shook his head. We triple verified. Unless someone forged her identity at a level nearly impossible in the financial sector, the signature is genuine. Cole let out a humorless bark. So, your precious mother helped destroy my company from the grave. Or maybe she isn't as dead as you all think. Harper's stomach twisted. A cold tremor crept up her spine. Her mother had been secretive. Her mother had traveled often. Her mother did warn Harper in her letter that truth is not always gentle. But were those clues or grief twisting her memory? Savannah finally broke the silence, her voice weak. I never met the person funding me. Everything came through encrypted channels. I just assumed it was someone at Lander. Harper pressed a hand to her temple, trying to steady her racing thoughts. Why would my mother? Why would she do this? Why fund a woman working with a hostile takeover group? Hart cleared his throat. We can't yet confirm motive, but the records show Eleanor authorized more than payments. She approved strategic directives, ones designed to pressure Remington Innovations financially. Cole rounded on Harper, fury twisting his features. So your mother wanted to destroy us. All this time I thought you were the problem, but clearly Grayson cut him off sharply. Enough. We don't know the full story. but Harper barely heard them. Her mother, Savannah, Lysander Capital, all tangled together in a web Harper never even knew existed. She forced herself to breathe, though her lungs felt tight. What else do the records show? Hart tapped his tablet again. There's a transfer pending scheduled for this week. A final directive under Eleanor Ellington's authorization. It states that Lysander is to release control of a dormant holding company tied to Ellington assets. Grayson's head snapped up. Which holding company? Which holding company? Hart hesitated only a moment before turning the screen toward Harper. Her heart nearly stopped. Ellington Prime, the same name engraved on the key she'd found in the vault. The same company she'd never heard of until last night. The same entity that, according to the buried documents, held shares in multiple major corporations, including Remington Innovations. Grayson whispered almost to himself. This isn't sabotage. This is preparation. Harper blinked through the fog of confusion. Preparation for what? Daniel Hart closed the tablet slowly. For a transfer of power, he said. One designed years ago. And if this document is real, Remington Innovations isn't the only company about to shift ownership. The room went dead silent. Harper felt the air thicken, electricity gathering like a storm on the edge of breaking. Cold stumbled a step backward, realizing something horrifying. Are you telling me? He choked out. That Harper Ellington might inherit more than my company. Hart nodded. Far more. Harper's breath trembled. Then Grayson's phone buzzed sharply in his pocket. He looked at the screen, his face draining of color. Harper, Ellington Prime just activated. And you're being summoned. The notification on Grayson's phone glowed like an omen. Ellington Prime activation. Mandatory summons for Harper Ellington. Harper felt her pulse stumble. Summoned. By whom? Grayson didn't answer immediately. His jaw flexed, eyes scanning the message 3 times before he finally spoke. Harper, Ellington Prime isn't just a holding company. It's an executive trust, a controlling body. Your mother built it to operate independently from Ellington Holdings. Whoever activates it has authority over billions. Harper blinked. Billions. Cole staggered backward into a chair. What kind of family did you marry into? Savannah whispered. The kind that could erase you with one meeting. Harper couldn't focus on them. Her chest tightened, not in fear, but in disbelief. Her mother was gone. Her mother had been gone for 8 years. How could a dead woman summon her? Grayson gently took Harper by the arm. We need to go now. Whiff. The car ride downtown sliced through Manhattan like a needle through fabric. Harper clutched the vault key in her hand. Feeling its weight, its history, its mystery, Grayson sat beside her, unusually quiet, his gaze fixed outside the window as the financial district skyscrapers rose into view. Grayson, Harper murmured, you knew something about this, didn't you? His silence answered for him. They stopped in front of an imposing limestone building older than the city's glass towers, marked with an emblem Harper had only ever seen on her mother's documents. A silver crescent enclosing a single star. Ellington Prime Headquarters, Grayson said softly. Harper felt dwarfed by the scale of it. Not the building, the legacy. Inside, marble floors stretched into a vast atrium. At the center stood a circular desk where a woman in a tailored black suit looked up and smiled. Miss Ellington, she greeted as if expecting her for years. Welcome. Your mother left strict instructions should this day ever come. Harper swallowed hard. What instructions? Please follow me. They were led down a private hallway to a steel door that opened with a biometric scan. A scan that required Harper's palm and the vault key simultaneously. The door clicked open with a deep metallic sigh. Inside was a conference chamber lit by soft golden light. A long mahogany table dominated the room. Dozens of leather-bound folders sat arranged meticulously, and at the far end of the table sat a man in his 60s, gay-haired, sharpied, wearing a pin, Harper recognized from her childhood, an advisor her mother trusted more than anyone. Mr. Ashton. Harper breathed. He stood slowly, emotion flickering across his normally stern face. You've grown into her eyes. Sit, Harper. Everything your mother hid from you must now come to light. Read it. Harper lowered herself into the seat, hands trembling against the table. Mr. Ashton opened the first folder. Ellington Prime was designed to activate under 3 conditions. 1. Your 30th birthday. 2. A hostile threat against Remington Innovations. And 3. He paused, meeting her gaze. A betrayal severe enough that your mother feared you would lose everything. Harper's throat tightened. Your mother predicted this, she whispered. Ashton nodded. Elenina anticipated that Cole Remington would eventually turn on you. She knew his ambition, she knew his arrogance, and she prepared the ultimate countermeasure. He pushed the folder toward her. Harper opened it. Inside were documents, contracts, voting rights, ownership transfers, and at the top, Ellington Prime appoints Harper Ellington as its controlling trustee, effective immediately. Her breath caught. She gave me control, Harper whispered. Of everything? Yes, Ashton said, including the power to dismantle Lander Capital itself. Grayson stiffened beside her. Loser? How, Mr.? Ashton's lips curved faintly. Because Ellington Prime, he said, owns a silent majority stake in Lysander. Harper's world reeled. She wasn't just positioned to stop the takeover. She had the power to reverse it. But Ashton wasn't finished. He slid one final envelope her way sealed. Ivory bearing her mother's wax crest. Eleanor left you one final message, he said. One that must be opened today. Harper reached for it, her heart thundering. Why today? She asked. Ashton exhaled. Because Cole Remington is about to make his most dangerous move yet, and only this letter will tell you how to stop him. The ivory envelope felt heavier than any document Harper had touched that day. It wasn't just paper. It was a heartbeat from the past, a final whisper from the woman she had loved, mourned, and longed for. The seal, marked with her mother's signature crescent and star crest, gleamed softly under the warm lights of the Ellington Prime chamber. Go on, Mr. Ashton urged gently. Your mother meant for you to read it when the world felt impossible. Harper inhaled shakily, sliding a finger under the wax. The seal cracked open with a quiet snap that echoed inside her chest. She unfolded the letter, and her mother's elegant handwriting washed over her like a wave, familiar and devastating. My Harper, if this reaches you, the storm I feared has come. I prayed it never would, but I knew my daughter, brilliant, kind, and far stronger than I ever was, would not break. She would rise. Harper blinked rapidly, her throat tightening. You must understand something I never told you. Your marriage to Cole was no accident. I allowed you to love him, hoping he would grow into the man he pretended to be. But I prepared for the day he didn't. Grayson exhaled beside her, the truth dawning slowly. When I invested in his early company, I did so to help you, not him. But as his ambition sharpened, I saw the danger. His hunger had no anchor. So I began constructing a safeguard Ellington Prime, a fortress he would never see. Harper's hands trembled. All those years she thought her mother lived in shadows because she was distant. She never realized her mother was building an empire in silence. You must hear this, Harper. Cole is not acting alone. His desperation will push him toward people far worse than him. If he senses the slightest threat to his position, he will try to destroy everything financially, publicly, personally. He will not hesitate. Harper's breath caught. It felt like her mother was in the room, warning her across time. So, I leave you two tools. The first is Ellington Prime, power strong enough to crush any man who tries to diminish you. The second is truth. The evidence of Cole's actions that he believes he buried forever. Harper's eyes widened. Evidence. Her mother had evidence. Mr. Ashton reached beneath the table and slid forward a sleek black box Harper hadn't noticed before. Your mother instructed me to give you this only after you opened the letter. Harper opened the box with unsteady fingers. Inside lay a flash drive and a stack of photographs. Her stomach twisted as she skimmed through them. Cole meeting with Lyser operatives, signing off unauthorized transfers, forging documents, bribing external auditors, evidence far beyond anything she imagined. Her mother hadn't just predicted betrayal. She had documented it. Harper closed the lid slowly, tears streaming this time, not from pain, but from a fierce, rising strength. Your mother believed you'd need to destroy him to save yourself, Ashton said quietly. She left you everything required to do so. Grayson placed a reassuring hand on Harper's shoulder. With this, the board will have no choice. Cole's reign is over. Harper exhaled deeply, a fire awakening in her veins. But then Ashton's expression darkened. There's more, he said. Your mother warned of one final threat, a move Cole would make when pushed into a corner. Harper's heart hammered. What move? Ashton met her eyes. Grim. He is planning to transfer Remington Innovations offshore tonight. If he succeeds, your evidence, your shares, your power, none of it will matter. Harper went still. And Harper, Ashton added, he's already on his way to do it. Harper felt her pulse slam against her ribs the moment Ashton's words landed. Cole is already on his way. There was no time to process the betrayal, no time to absorb the magnitude of her mother's foresight. The clock had begun ticking the moment Ellington Prime activated, and Cole, reckless, vindictive Cole, was sprinting toward the nuclear option. "We need to move," Grayson said, his voice low but urgent. He was already at Harper's side, helping her stand. "If he transfers the company offshore before we intervene, everything your mother built, everything you inherited will be powerless." Ashton nodded gravely. "Your mother predicted he would try something irreversible. She warned that Cole would rather burn his empire to ash than let anyone else hold it." Harper pressed a hand to her belly, breathing steadily. They hurried through the marble hallway, Ashton briefing them as they walked. Coole's heading to a private office at Holston & Co. International banking. They specialize in rapid offshore conversions. Illegal but well hidden. Grayson frowned. "How do you know this?" "Because Eleanor anticipated this and placed monitoring triggers on all accounts tied to Cole Remington. The moment he stepped into Holston's system, we were alerted." Harper shook her head in disbelief. "My mother planned for everything. Even this?" "Yes," Ashton said. "But planning isn't enough. You must arrive before he signs the final transfer." Outside, the Ellington Prime car awaited a sleek, armored sedan reserved for the trust's highest-level operations. Harper climbed in, Grayson sliding beside her, Ashton in the front seat. The car sped through Manhattan as lights streaked across the windows. Fulton Street, Wall Street, the stone facade of old financial institutions standing like watchful giants. Harper tightened her grip on the evidence box. "What happens if Cole finishes the transfer?" Grayson's jaw clenched. "He'll move Remington Innovations to an offshore shell. The board loses authority, the auditors lose access, and you," he looked at her softer now, "lose the power your mother fought to give you." "But why would he destroy his own company?" Harper whispered. "Because control matters more to him than survival," Grayson said. "If he can't have it, no one can." Ashton turned slightly. "Your mother feared he might do worse. She believed he'd choose annihilation over accountability." The car lurched to a stop in front of Holston & Co., a narrow granite building carved into the shadows between luxury retail and corporate towers. The windows were tinted black. No sign, no name. The kind of place where fortunes were erased in silence. Grayson stepped out first, surveying the entrance. Cole's still inside. His car is across the street. Harper's heart hammered. She felt the baby shift as if sensing the tension. She steadied herself. "Let's go." Inside, Halston & Co. was dim, lined with dark wood, and 2 quiet hallways. A receptionist lifted her head, but froze when Ashton flashed the Ellington Prime insignia. "We need access to Client Suite 7, Ashton said firmly. The woman swallowed hard and buzzed them through. Harper, Grayson, and Ashton moved swiftly down the carpeted corridor. With each step, Harper's determination hardened. She was no longer the trembling woman from the ballroom. She was Ella Lenina Ellington's daughter, armed with truth, legacy, and power. They reached Suite 7. Behind the door, they heard Cole's voice, rapid, frantic. "Finalize it now. I don't care about the penalties. Just transfer the entire holding structure to Cayman Trust 94. Do it." Harper's breath caught. Grayson looked at her. "Are you ready?" "No," Harper whispered. "But I'm going in anyway." She reached for the door handle, and the moment she pushed it open, Cole spun around, shock tearing across his face. "Harper," he shouted, "how did you even find me?" Cole's face drained of color the moment Harper stepped into the suite. He looked like a man caught standing on the edge of a cliff, one wrong breath away from a fatal fall. His tie was loosened, his hair disheveled, his eyes wild with the desperation of someone who had already lost but refused to admit it. "Harper, how did you even find me?" he stammered. Harper didn't flinch. "My mother taught me to finish what she started. 2S. Behind her, Grayson and Ashton entered, their presence turning the private banking suite into a courtroom Cole couldn't escape. The banker, a nervous man with trembling hands, rose from his chair. "Mr. Remington, if this transaction is contested—" "It isn't contested," Cole snapped. "She has no authority here." Harper stepped forward, placing the evidence box on the table with a soft, devastating finality. Actually, Cole, I have more authority than you ever imagined. How? Cole's gaze flicked to the box, fear widening his eyes. What is that? The truth, Harper said. Everything you buried, everything you hoped would stay hidden. My mother uncovered it years ago, Cole scoffed, but panic edged his voice. You don't know what you're talking about. You're emotional, unstable. You've been manipulated. That's enough, Grayson said sharply. Harper is neither unstable nor misinformed. She is the controlling trustee of Ellington Prime. Yes. The banker nearly choked. Ellington Prime. Cole spun toward him. Don't listen to them. Complete the transfer. But Harper lifted a hand, calm but commanding. If you finalize that transaction, you'll be assisting in fraudulent asset relocation under federal investigation. The banker froze. Under investigation, Grayson nodded. Financial compliance is already reviewing his accounts. Any participation in an offshore transfer will implicate your firm directly. End 5. Make stores. 5S. Cole lunged toward the banker. Don't listen to him. I'm your client. Harper stepped between them. Not anymore. For the first time, Cole truly looked at her not with annoyance or superiority, but with disbelief, as if he were seeing her for the first time in years. You're ruining everything, he growled. No, Harper replied. You did that on your own. Cole's mask cracked. Fury twisted his features. You think you're superior now because you got lucky with some inheritance. You're still nothing without me. Harper felt the old wounds flare, the years of belittling, dismissal, control. But she no longer shook beneath his words. I built you, Cole snarled. You were nobody when I met you. Harper's voice was steady. I was kind. I was loyal. And that terrified you. Her words struck something deep. Cole stumbled back, grasping at the table for support. Harper, think about our child. Raid, she inhaled sharply, her protective instinct sparking. My child, she corrected, deserves a parent who isn't willing to destroy their future out of spite. Cole's composure shattered. You can't do this to me. You can't take my company. Harper lowered the final document onto the table, the proof of fraud her mother had saved. You already lost it, she whispered. The banker swallowed hard. Mr. Remington, I can't proceed with the transfer. Oh, Cole looked around, frantic, cornered, suffocating under the truth closing in on him. Then slowly, dangerously, he turned his glare toward Harper. You think this ends here? He hissed. Grayson stepped in front of Harper. Yes, it does. Cole's fists curled, and then he reached into his jacket. Harper's breath caught. Grayson moved. Ashton gasped. The banker stumbled backward. Because Cole wasn't pulling out a document. He was pulling out a keycard to Remington Tower's restricted server room. And with that keycard, he could wipe every trace of evidence before dawn. For one suspended moment, no one spoke. The thin black keycard gleamed between Cole's fingers like a detonator. The restricted server rooms at Remington Tower were infamous, armored, shielded, legally inaccessible to anyone except a handful of top executives. If Cole reached them, he could erase every trace of fraud, every forged signature, every illegal transfer, every crime Harper's mother had documented. Harper felt her stomach twist. Cole, don't do this. He gave a bitter smile. Do what? Protect myself from you? From your dead mother's claws reaching out from the grave? His voice grew louder, edged with something feral. You think you can waltz in with your makeup and your inheritance, and take everything from me? Grayson stepped forward, voice low and lethal. Drop the keycard, Cole sneered. Or what? You'll cry to the board. He pushed past the banker, storming toward the door. I built this company. Those servers respond to me. Not her, not you. Me. Harper followed, her breath short and sharp. Cole, stop. If you destroy evidence, you'll ruin thousands of employees. People who trusted you. They'll survive. He spat. I won't. He shoved through the exit, sprinting down the hallway. Grayson grabbed Harper's arm to steady her. Stay close. We can't let him reach the elevator. They raced after him, Harper struggling to keep pace, Grayson guiding her with a protective hand at her back. Ashton called security ahead, his voice tight with urgency. The hallway lights blurred past as Cole slammed his fist on the elevator button. Come on, Open. Harper stepped forward despite her shaking knees. Cole, please think about our child. For a flicker of a second, Cole hesitated. His jaw trembled. Something human flashed in his gaze, but power swallowed it whole. That child ruined everything. He snapped. Harper froze. Air punched from her lungs. Grayson lunged, but Cole dove into the elevator just as the doors slid open. He flashed the key card like a badge, overriding the restricted access. The elevator shot upward toward the 39th floor, the server vault. Grayson cursed under his breath. We need the stairwell now, Harper nodded, determination rising from the ashes of every wound Cole had inflicted. Then, let's outrun him. They burst into the stairwell. The climb was brutal. Harper gripping the rail, pushing past the pain, refusing to be sidelined while Cole torched the truth. Grayson stayed beside her, wordlessly matching her pace. You don't have to prove anything, he said breathlessly. Yes, Harper said through clenched teeth, forcing another step. I do. They reached the 39th floor landing just as the elevator dinged. Cole stumbled out, wild-eyed, sprinting toward the steel monolith security door of the server vault. Harper shouted, Cole, if you open that vault, you become a criminal. There's no undoing it. He swiped the card. A red light blinked, then green. The vault lock began to unseal. Grayson lunged, tackling Cole to the ground. The keycard skidded across the polished floor. Cole roared and swung wildly, connecting a blow to Grayson's jaw. Harper, gasping, stumbled toward the card. Cole saw her. No, he bellowed, breaking free. But Harper reached the card first. She held it tightly. It's over, Cole. He froze, breathing hard, shirt torn, sweat dripping, eyes filled with a venomous mix of rage and fear. You think you've won, he spat. This company, this power, it was never yours. Harper stepped backward, gripping the card as the vault's massive door finished unlocking behind Cole. That's where you're wrong, she whispered. Then a thunderous alarm erupted, red lights flashing across the hallway. Grayson's eyes widened. Harper. Someone else just accessed the system remotely. Who? Harper demanded. Ashton appeared at the stairwell doorway. Breathless, pale. Not someone, he said. A corporation, real life. Harper's heart slammed. Ashton swallowed hard. Lysander Capital just triggered a full takeover attempt. The alarm blared through the 39th floor corridor. Deep, metallic, urgent. Red light strobed across the walls, throwing harsh shadows over Cole's face as he stared at Ashton in disbelief. Lysander, he spat. They wouldn't dare take my company. Ashton shook his head. They're not taking your company. They're taking what they believe is an asset weakened by internal collapse. You handed them the perfect opening. Harper's pulse thudded. What does this takeover attempt mean? It means, Grayson said grimly, wiping blood from his jaw, that the final blow doesn't come from Cole, but from the people he trusted least. Cole lunged toward the server vault. I can still stop them. No, Harper said, stepping in front of him. You can't. He glared at her with a rage that bordered on hysteria. You don't know anything about this world. You never did. You think a few documents make you powerful? You think a dead woman's trust fund makes you untouchable? Harper didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. My mother didn't give me power. She said she gave me the truth. And the truth destroys everything you built on lies. Cole's breath hitched. His mask years in the making began to crumble. I made you, he whispered, like a man begging the ocean not to swallow him. You were nothing before me. Today, Harper felt a strange calm wash over her. No, Cole. I was nothing to you. That's very different. Grayson stepped beside her. The auditors are already inside the system. Lysander's attempt will trigger a full forensic review. Every illegal move Cole made will be exposed. Cole spun, frenzied. I can still fix this. I can. You can't, Ashton said. Your board has been alerted. Remington Innovations has been frozen pending investigation. Oh. Cole stumbled backward, gripping his hair with both hands. No. This is my company. You can't take it from me. Harper looked at him with a softness that surprised even her, not pity closure. You took everything from yourself, she said. And then the elevator dinged. 2 federal compliance officers stepped out, badges raised. Cole Remington, the lead officer called. Cole Frozer, you're under federal investigation. You are required to come with us. Reckonu. Cole backed away, shaking his head. No. You don't understand. She did this. He pointed at Harper like a man drowning, grabbing at anything. She sabotaged me. She's unstable. Enough, the officer said firmly. We've seen the reports. Cole's mouth snapped shut. Savannah appeared around the corner. Mascara streaked, eyes wild. Cole, what's happening? He looked at her, betrayal twisting through his features. You brought Lysander in. You destroyed everything. Savannah shook her head frantically. No. They turned on me too. I didn't know they'd. Cole lunged toward her. But officers blocked him. Harper watched, not with satisfaction, but with finality. The man who once controlled every room now looked small, cornered, undone. As Cole was handcuffed, he looked back at Harper with hatred burning through the cracks of his ruin. You think you've won? He growled. Harper lifted her chin. No, I survived to a date. Cole was led away. Savannah collapsed against the wall, sobbing. No one comforted her. Grayson turned to Harper. It's over. But Ashton shook his head slowly. Not yet. Harper stiffened. What do you mean? Ashton inhaled deeply. Lysander's takeover attempt wasn't a strike at Cole. He looked at Harper with grave eyes. It was a strike at you. For the first time in weeks, the air felt still. Not heavy, not suffocating. Used. Still, Harper stood in the boardroom of Remington Innovations. Not as a bystander, not as a shadow, not as a woman tolerated on the edges of a man's empire, but as its rightful leader. The evidence had been submitted. Lysander's takeover attempt had been neutralized once Ellington Prime revealed its silent majority stake. The board, shaken to its core, voted unanimously to remove Cole permanently. The company was hers, but Harper didn't smile. Not yet. Grayson walked to her side, his voice low. The Federal Bureau confirmed it. Cole's actions go beyond corporate misconduct. Justice wasn't loud. It wasn't triumphant. It was quiet, steady, irrevocable. Good, Harper whispered. Not because I want revenge, but because he can't hurt anyone else again. Savannah had already been escorted out of the building, not in handcuffs, but in disgrace. Lysander, exposed by Ellington Prime's sudden appearance, issued a panicked statement, denying involvement, but it was too late. Their influence shattered the moment Harper claimed her inheritance publicly. Mr. Ashton entered the boardroom and placed a leather folder before her. It's official, he said softly. You hold controlling interest not just here, but across multiple Ellington entities. Your mother intended for you to step into this world. Harper looked down at the documents. Power, legacy, responsibility, all resting in her hands. A life she never asked for, yet now felt undeniably right. When I was little, she murmured. She used to tell me I had more strength than I understood. Grayson smiled gently. She was right. Outside the glass walls, employees gathered in cautious hope, waiting to see who would lead them into the future. Harper stepped out, shoulders steady despite the exhaustion pulling at her body. I know the past weeks have been difficult, she said to them. But today marks a new beginning, not ruled by fear, ego, or secrecy, by integrity, accountability, and care for every person who built this company. A wave of emotional relief swept through the crowd. Some clapped, some teared up, some simply stood taller. Harper felt something shift inside her healing. Later that week, she oversaw the first board meeting under her leadership. She announced new policies, reinstated departments Cole had slashed, restored jobs he'd eliminated. She redirected a percentage of company profits to a fund protecting women facing financial abuse. And then came the moment she had avoided thinking about. Grayson found her alone in her office, a sprawling glass room overlooking the Manhattan skyline. Soft afternoon light spilled across her desk. You did it, he said. Harper turned toward him slowly. Not alone. He stepped closer, careful, respectful, as he always had been. Harper, I meant what I said the night of the gala. You're not alone, not anymore. Not if you don't want to be. She felt her heart flutter, not with fear, but with something new, something warm. Grayson, she whispered. I don't know what the future looks like yet, Harper admitted. The man beside her held her gaze with quiet certainty. That's all right. We can build it one honest step at a time. Harper released a breath she felt she had been holding for years. For the first time, the world no longer seemed to be collapsing around her. It felt open, uncertain, but finally hers. She placed her hand in his. Then let's begin. Beyond the windows, Manhattan glittered with movement and possibility. Harper stood at the center of the empire that had once tried to silence, humiliate, and erase her. But she was no longer the pregnant wife Cole had dismissed in front of a ballroom full of strangers. She had exposed the truth, protected her child, and reclaimed the future others had tried to steal. Harper finally understood that survival had never been her greatest victory. Her true victory was choosing dignity over fear, peace over revenge, and a life no longer controlled by betrayal. Cole had expected her to disappear quietly. Instead, she rose in front of everyone, and as Harper walked toward her new beginning, she made herself one final promise. No one would ever silence her again.